Okay, so we are doing our personal finance part 2, expenses. We've already discussed, or you should have already watched the personal finance income PowerPoint lesson, and now we're going to do expenses. So income is money that comes in from our job. So when we earn money from our job, we put it in the bank, we put it in our checking account. But when we have expenses, that's the money that goes out, all the bills we have to pay, all the things we have to pay for. And you're going to have a lot of expenses when you grow up. So we'll be doing a budget project that talks about those expenses. But the whole goal is that your income is higher than the money you spend. You should not spend more than you earn. Okay? So that's the whole point of having a budget, is that you're not spending more than you earn. You have to plan that out. All right, so there's something called a cost of living. The cost of living is the average amount that it costs people to live. And they base that on, the government keeps a number based on the current cost of things like gas, milk, eggs, and bread. So the cost of living over time goes up. It was the cost of living in 1953 was a lot less than it is now. But the income for jobs was a lot less as well. So the balance is that what the cost of living is, you should be able to afford the cost of living with your income, and your income should adjust over time as well. So as the cost of living goes up, your paycheck should also go up. If you're working for a good company, that is keeping in mind that you need to get paid more when the cost of things also rises. So that's cost of living. A budget is a plan for how you spend money. So you keep track of what money is coming in through your paycheck, and that what bills you need to pay, what money needs to go out in your expenses. If you are spending more than you're earning, you actually go into something called debt. Debt is when you owe money. So you don't want to get into a position where you owe money, whether that's on a credit card or whether that's you owe money to the people that you have to pay your bills to. You don't want to go into debt. So debt is money owed. Let's take a look at some of the common living expenses. So the first thing is, you're going to need to have somewhere to live, a home, an apartment. Some people buy a house, and you're going to have to pay a price for that. So if you're renting somewhere, it's called rent. You pay a monthly rent. And if you are owning a home, you pay a monthly mortgage. It means you've borrowed money from the bank and you have to pay the bank back every month with interest. And that's called a mortgage, depending on whether you live in an apartment is rent and a home you would pay a mortgage. Of course, if you live in an apartment or a home, you still need to pay for heat, especially where we live. It gets really cold for a lot of the months, so heat is very expensive. That's one of the major bills. Electricity, you need to spend money every month for the lights and the things that work on electricity in your house. You pay an electric bill. You pay a water bill, the water that comes into your house. There's a reason that your mom says, turn off the faucet, because she's paying, or your dad's paying for a monthly water bill, and water costs money. Sewer, it costs money when you flush the toilet. Not only does that cost money for your water bill, it costs money for your sewer bill. And your sewer bill is usually worked into your payments of your home or your taxes. But basically, we do have to pay for someone to take away our waste in the toilet. It's not pretty, but it's reality. All right, so you also have to have home insurance or renter's insurance. If something bad happens to your home, you can't afford a new home, right? So you buy insurance to protect you from that loss. If you have an apartment, you get renter's insurance to protect you if there's a flood or if there's a fire or something and you lose your belongings. You want to be able to buy those belongings again, so you need insurance. All right, satellite and cable to watch television, internet. We pay for an internet plan every month. So depending on what your income is, you decide on what your internet plan is going to be. Your home phone, some people still have a home phone. Some people have a cell phone. So that would be something that you pay for. And all your furnishings and appliances. Couches cost money. Ovens cost money. Refrigerators cost money. A toaster costs money. So all of those things that you need to have in your house to fill it up so that you can sit on things and use things and cook, all those would be also included in a budget. All right, let's look at some car expenses. In order for you to get around, most people own a car. Not all people own a car, especially if you live in a city. Then you may take public transportation, and you may not own a car. But for those people that own a car, you have to pay every month your car payment, because most people don't have $20,000 of cash lying around. So they borrow money from a bank and they get a car loan, and they borrow that money. They have to pay the money back every month to the bank plus interest. So they'd have a car payment to make every month. That would be part of your budget expenses. Car insurance. It's important to have insurance that if your car gets into an accident or you hit somebody's mailbox, you're going to be asked to pay for that. So insurance is something that will help you to pay for it, because we don't have all that money lying around that if you had, you had an accident and your whole car got ruined, the bank still wants its monthly payment. Just because your car is no longer drivable, the bank doesn't say, oh, well, you can just stop paying us. No, you have to keep paying your car payment. So you need to have insurance to protect you from any accident that you might have, so that you can get a new car with your insurance payment. Gas, it costs money to go places. So the more you drive to get to your job, if your commute is really long, meaning that you drive a long time to get to work, then you're going to pay more money in gas every month, and you need to put that into your budget. If you live close by where you work, or you work at home because you have a home business, then your gas is going to be a lot less. But everyone has to figure in gas to their budget. Oil changes. There's things you have to do to your car to keep your car working, and oil changes is one of those things. New tires. Parking. If you live in a city and you need to park and you don't have a place to park, you're going to need to pay for parking. So that's something you have to take account of in your budget, is whether you're paying for parking. Or if you go somewhere where you're working and you have to pay to park, you have to account for that. Maintenance of your car costs money every once in a while to fix your car. When your car breaks, you got to pay for someone to do that work for you. That's a service. And registration and inspection. Every year on your birthday month, you need to register your car and pay taxes on your car to your town that you live in. And you also need to get your car inspected to make sure your car is safe for the road and that it is in working order. And that costs some money as well to get your inspection sticker. If you don't get registered and you don't get your inspection sticker, the police will pull you over and give you a ticket, because it's against the law to drive without being registered or inspected. All right, miscellaneous expenses. What are miscellaneous expenses? It means everything that's not part of your home expenses or your car expenses. It means everything else, random things that you have to pay for in your life. So groceries is one of those things. You need food. Groceries cost a lot of money, so that's a big part of a lot of people's budget. Clothing, you have to be not naked in our society, so you have to budget for clothing and where you're going to get your clothing. Some people buy their clothing at the mall, or they'll buy their clothing at a brand name store, and other people know that they can save money by going to Goodwill or buying clothes that are already used at a thrift shop or at a consignment shop. Entertainment, how do you want to entertain yourself? Going to the movies, going bowling, going for laser tag, whatever those kinds of things are that you like, that costs money. And you're going to need to see if you have enough money in your budget to pay for those extras. They're not needs, they're wants. So that comes second. You pay for your needs first and then your wants. Savings for retirement. It's important that you put aside money for the future you, because you're not always going to be working. Someday you're not going to be working because you'll be wanting to, enjoy the later part of your life. And sometimes you just get too old to be doing the kinds of work that your life work was. So you're going to want to save for the future you by putting money into savings for retirement. Pets cost money. This pup cost a lot of money. It's ridiculous how much money this pet costs. So you have to take into consideration of feeding your pet, taking your pet to the vet. This dog has had so many operations, and this dog has cancer and has special food and special medicine. It's ridiculous. So it costs money. I have to budget that into my expenses. If you want to save for vacation, you need to put money away for vacation. Vacations cost a lot of money. So it's a want and not a need. So you'll have to decide if it fits in your budget and your job pays enough for you to be going on vacations. Investments. You can invest in the stock market to make more money. We'll talk about that later. Giving to charity like churches or the soup kitchen, or to schools, to nonprofits, to clean water for the world filters, or animal kinds of things like charity. Giving to charity is important. If we have money for our needs and we have money for some of our wants, then maybe we have money to help others as well. Your cell phone would be a miscellaneous expense. Health insurance. Health insurance is a really important thing to have, because if we get sick and go to the doctor, it costs a lot of money. So we need to be putting money aside for health insurance, so that if we do get sick, or if we need an operation, or we break our leg in an accident, that we're not having to pay all of that money out of our pocket. We pay every month just in case something happens. And then when something happens, that money from health insurance is there to help us pay for it. So that's important as well. Emergency savings. It's important for everybody to not just spend the money that they get in their paycheck every month, but to put money away just in case something happens. Like, what happens if you lose your job, right? It takes some time to find a new job. So you want some money put aside in the bank in a savings account so you can continue to pay your bills, because they don't stop collecting your bills just because you don't have a job. You still need to pay for your rent for your apartment, and for your heat and hot water and electricity and your phone bill. All of those things still come in the mail. So you have to have an emergency fund, so that if you lose your job, or if you get sick and you can't work, or if there's a natural disaster or a virus that takes over and you're home for months, you need to be able to have money in your bank account to keep eating and keep paying your bills in an emergency. College savings is something you can put aside as well, because college costs a lot of money. So when you get your job, and when you get older, you might decide to have kids. Kids cost money. You would have to put those in your living expenses, because every single mouth you have to feed is a little bit more money in your budget. And saving up for college is important, to put some money away to go to school after your public education. All right, let's take a look. What's next? All right, so buying a car, we talked about it a little bit, but you're not going to have enough money to buy a car with cash. Most people don't pay cash for a car. They have to borrow money from a bank and get a car loan. So you need to save up your money to get a down payment. You need to have good credit, meaning that you pay your bills on time and the bank is able to trust you. If you don't have good credit, the bank is going to say, yeah, I'm not lending you any money. I don't expect you're going to pay it back. So you take out a loan from a bank, and then every month you pay them back a car payment. We'll do that as part of our budget project. All right, how do you pay for things? Well, you can pay things with a debit card, a credit card, with checks, or with cash. You can also pay online. So when you buy items, you have to decide how you're paying for that. So the main difference is that between a debit card and a credit card. I think we'll talk about that a little bit later, but a debit card, that money comes right out of your bank. So it's kind of like giving them money right out of your bank, but instead of using cash, it's a card. So that takes money that you already have in your bank. Whereas a credit card, that's a tricky thing we will talk about a little bit. A credit card means you're spending money you don't have. You're spending money, the bank is going to let you have it, like for to borrow it, and then you have to pay that money back when the bill comes in. So credit cards are very complicated. We'll get into that more, because it's very important you understand the dangers of credit cards, because you're borrowing that money from the bank and you have to pay it back, sometimes with interest. So it's sometimes better to use a debit card, because it's the money you already have and you won't go into credit card debt. All right, let's take a look. A check. Checks are becoming a lot less common now that we have online banking. But basically, when you write a check to a company, you write the name of the company in this line, you write the date, the check number is up at the top, you write the amount that the check goes for, use in numbers, using the decimal point in the correct place, and then you write out the actual amount, $62 and 0 over 100 cents. That's so that no one can change that amount that you write in your check. Because if this says $62 right here, I could easily just make a mark and change it into 68 if I was a not honest person. Or I could add a 1 here and I could make this $162 if I was a not honest person. So we write out in our check the actual dollars in words, because it's a lot harder to change that. you write what the check is for at the bottom, and then you sign your name. It's important to have a signature that's the same every time for official documents, and a check would be one of those official documents to sign. Let's take a look. What is next? Oh, so when you write a check, you need to keep track of what you spend in a checkbook register. And nowadays it's mostly done online. So you can see that the money that comes in is your income. The money that goes out is your expenses. So you keep track of what check number you write, the date, who you wrote the check to, what was the amount that's the payment, and then you keep track over here, you keep track of your balance. So every time you write a check, you have to subtract that money from your bank account balance. So you know what you have in your bank account. You don't want to spend more than you have in your bank account, because then you'll get all sorts of fees and you'll get in trouble with the bank for spending money that you didn't have, that's not yours. So you keep track of your bank check register very carefully. All right. One of the things is not to fall into the credit card hole. It's super easy to spend money on a credit card. It's too easy because the bank wants it to be easy. And when you get to be a certain age, you're going to get all sorts of offers from the bank to send you a credit card to say, here, have a credit card, spend money. And it's so easy to fall into that. Oh, I have this magic card that I can just go and buy something that I want and take it home with me. And you don't realize that what you're doing is you're spending money you don't have. Because a credit card is basically, you run it in the machine and your bank gets a notice that says you want to borrow $100. And the bank gives you $100. But now when the bill comes in the mail, you have to pay that $100 and you have to pay the bank back interest. And over time, that interest can get very big depending on what you're spending your money on. So it's really important that you do not fall into the credit card hole. And you try to pay for everything you need with money you have out of your bank, or with cash, or with a check, or with your debit card, and not get into credit cards. It sounds good, but lots of people get into trouble with credit cards. All right, your credit is how trustworthy you are in terms of, does the bank trust you to be a good person that can deal with money? So when you have good credit, it means you pay your bills on time, you pay your bills, and the banks keep track of your credit score. And it's a number, it's kind of like a report card grade that says, oh, you're super good with money, or you're not good with money. And when you go to buy a car, or you want to take out a loan for something, the bank will look at your credit score and decide if they're going to loan you that money. And if you have a good credit score, then they're going to give you a good rate and they're going to lend you that money for something that you want. And if you don't have a good credit score, they're going to say, yeah, sorry, no, we don't trust that you're going to pay us back. So it's important that you pay your bills on time and that you're paying your bills and not going into debt, or that you're not having too much money on your credit cards, because then you can't actually get a loan. All right, being smart with your money, things that you can do. First thing is to make a budget and stick with it. It's easy to spend more than you earn, so it's really important to keep track of what your money is. How much are you spending on gas? How much are you spending on food? How much are you spending on going out to eat? How much are you spending on video games? Like, all of those things cost money, and before you know it, you've spent your paycheck and now you're like short and you're like in the hole. Don't let that happen. Use cash wherever possible, because when you pay cash, it kind of prevents you from spending too much. When you have to hand someone a $20 bill, it's a lot harder to do that than to put it on your debit card, because it just seems like magic. You just paid $20 and it doesn't seem like you're spending real money. Look at the grocery store shelves and compare costs. Buy the cheaper things in the groceries. You don't have to get brand names. You can buy store brand and it's much cheaper. Use coupons or online coupon codes. You'll save money that way. Look on the internet to compare prices. So you don't always just go online and find the first thing you want and buy it. You compare shop. You go to different sites and see if you can get better deals. Yes, okay, I will pick you up. I know, you're such high maintenance. Let's see, shop in the clearance section. There's a lot of things you can get in the clearance sections. Don't make impulse buys. This is my big problem. I see something new and sparkly and I want it. And so I do a lot of impulse buying and then I regret it later. So just think before you buy things. Make a list and stick to the list. And there's nothing wrong with hand-me-downs and Goodwill. spending money does not, having clothing doesn't mean you have to buy clothing at the most expensive place. You can go to Goodwill and get great clothing that someone else never even wore with the tag still on it. So that's a great thing to think about to save money. All right. Some reasons for saving. Well, you shouldn't spend all your money. So your paycheck comes in and you have a lot of bills to pay, but you need to put some money in savings. Savings is for later. You keep your money in checking for when you are just going to spend that money on expenses like your debit card and you're writing checks to pay your bills. That goes in your checking account. Your savings account is so that you put money away and you don't spend it. You save it for an emergency, like we talked about before. You save it for college. You save up to buy a house or a car, to save up to pay for a wedding or for your kids' college fund, or planning on having kids cost money. You want to put money away to save for kids. Investing in the stock market or putting money away for a vacation or a special thing that you want to save up and buy, like a boat, right? You'd have to put money in savings. So savings is the money that you're putting away and not spending so you can save it for later. Charity. There's a lot of great charities that people can donate money to. Local churches, homeless shelters, animal shelters, the soup kitchen, Red Cross, political organizations, your local school. Don't forget, your local school is paid for with taxes. And so we don't get all of the money we need in a school to pay for the things that we need. So teachers spend a lot of money on pencils and Clorox wipes and blah, 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 blah. So find a charity that is something that you believe in, that you could give some of your money to. It helps to give back to others and not just keep it all for ourselves. Insurance. Insurance is something that we buy just in case something bad happens. So you can have renter's insurance or home insurance if something bad happens to your house, like an avalanche or, a meteor hits your house. You don't have the money to buy a new house. So insurance is something that will help you pay to rebuild your house. Car insurance is important to have. So if you get in an accident or hit somebody's garage or something like that. Life insurance, if you have children, you want to get life insurance so that if anything ever happened to you, they can get taken care of when you're gone, and they can still have an income that can feed them and make sure they have a house to live in, things like that. Phone insurance. We get phone insurance all the time because we drop our phone and it costs a lot of money to replace our phone. Whereas if we pay every month a certain fee, if you pay $10 a month, nothing happens to your phone for most months. But when it does happen, that money has saved up in an account in insurance to pay for a new phone. If you own a business, you would get business insurance just in case something happened to your business, like the building got hit by a car or something like that. Okay. So basically when we buy insurance, we pay a little bit every month to go to the insurance company, and most months nothing bad happens. And you might go your whole life with nothing bad happening. But if something bad happens, insurance is there to pay for it. And it's very important to get insurance for all of those things. And health insurance is super important to get. So if you get sick, you have a way to pay for it. All right, where else does your money go? Taxes. One of the biggest responsibilities that citizens have is to pay for taxes. Taxes pay for all of those things in our government and in our communities that not one person pays for. So a park would be paid for by taxes. The road we drive on is paid for by taxes. Street lights to keep it safe at night is paid for by taxes. The military is paid by taxes. We pay for the president with taxes. We pay for space, NASA and space satellites with taxes. We pay for national parks for taxes. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, we pay for in taxes. So there's 3 levels of taxes. There's federal taxes, which means the country of the United States or whatever country you live in. The state taxes, we live in New Hampshire, so our state taxes would go to pay for things in New Hampshire. And then we have local taxes. So federal is the country, state is the state, and local is the town or city that you live in. So for the federal taxes, we pay for the military, the president, all the different cabinets, all our Congress, the Department of Agriculture, Social Security. Those are all big taxes things for the federal government. For state taxes, we pay for the governor, for our state offices, for state police, state highways, health and human services, some colleges. And for local taxes, we pay for the mayor and city offices, road plowing in the winter, Public schools are paid for with taxes. Parks and playgrounds and police and fire and street signs, sidewalks, garbage pickup is paid for by taxes. When we leave our garbage out by the street, it gets paid up. Who pays for that? We all pay for that. Taxes pay for that. So taxes are an important responsibility as a citizen. We don't always like paying taxes, but we really like what taxes pay for. So I happen to be probably one of the only people that likes paying my taxes, because I really like the idea that if I call 911, someone's going to come help me, and that's paid for with taxes. I like the idea if I need an ambulance, that's going to come to my house. That's paid for by taxes. I like the idea that I can drive on a street instead of walk through the woods to work, because taxes pay for streets and police and fire and military. I like that if Canada decided to invade us, that our military would come to our safety and protection. I like that. So we don't like to pay taxes, but we do like what taxes pay for. So it makes it important for us to take that seriously as a responsibility to our community and our society. All right. So for your quiz, you're going to need to know what an expense is. That's the money going out for the things that you pay for a living. Home expenses, you're going to need to name 3 home expenses, things like rent, insurance, hot water, electricity, heat, things like that. Car expenses, things like a car payment, insurance, oil changes, gas. Miscellaneous expenses, things like food and groceries and entertainment and your cell phone. What's a budget? It's a plan for how you spend money. It measures your income, it measures your expenses, and keeps it right on track so you don't spend too much. Cost of living is how much it costs, the basic things, how much the basic things like milk and eggs and gas cost, and they determine a certain price that's the cost of living. How to write a check. Do you know how to write a check? Go back and review that. How to fill out a checkbook register. The difference between a debit card and a credit. Debit takes money right out of your bank account. Credit card borrows money you don't have from the bank that you'll have to pay back with interest. Credit score. Your credit score is kind of like a grade you get from banks to say how good you are with money and whether you're trustworthy with money. How to be a smart shopper. Use coupons. Go online and comparison shop. Buy cheap brands, like generic brands instead of name brands. Charities. Charities are things like churches and animal shelters and the Red Cross. Insurance. Insurance is protection from things that could happen, that you would lose something expensive. So things like house insurance, car insurance, health insurance, life insurance, phone insurance. You pay that every month so that you are protected if anything ever happens to that item. 3 levels of taxes. Federal is the country, state level is a state, and local area is your town or your city. And 10 things that taxes pay for. Let's know what our taxes pay for. Things like roads, street signs, military, schools, colleges, police, fire, some airports. I'm trying to think what else. The rules, NASA, our space program, agriculture. We pay a lot of taxes to make sure that our Department of Agriculture is on top of things with all of our food supplies, things like that. So feel free to go back and watch again. Feel free to go back and read the study guide. Your quiz will be coming up, and you'll need to know these things. And all right, that's it for expenses, part 2 of personal finance. Have a great day.